If you can't beat them, join them. Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow aren't wrong.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Rays podcast. Locked On Rays is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we are Kevin and Ulysses.
And we are lifelong Rays fans who have been podcasting about the Rays since 2019.
Later on today's show, we'll discuss Taylor Wall's unfortunate Gold Glove result, as well as his unlikely hero status. In a few minutes, we'll get to understand why Ryan Pepiot is the only Yamamoto of the Rays. But to start, ex-Rays starters caused a Rays non-controversy with comments made after the World Series.
And we're going to talk about all of that thanks to Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Yes, the LA Dodgers are once again victorious, back-to-back World Series champs.
Are we surprised? Are we surprised?
I'm surprised about the journey, but not about the results. But
yeah, we had 7 games. We had an 18-inning ball game, a lot of hijinks. I mean, for the average baseball fan with, no major rooting interest, there's not much more you could have asked for.
There was everything that you could have ever wanted in the World Series. I mean, you saw it all. And if you're a Rays fan, well, you got a couple of comments there at the end of the victory lap where Tyler Glasnow and Snell said, they asked them, we were here, you guys were here, and you couldn't do it. What does it feel like to win it again? And Blake Snell said, yes, we were here against this team in 2020, couldn't make it. And then Tyler, who's next to him, says, if you can't beat them, join them. They laugh, they have a high five, a little hug. There are soda pops and adult beverages going around.
Yes.
And I knew as soon as I saw that post, that's going to hit some nerves in Rays.
Canceled.
Exactly. It's going to hit some nerves, and it apparently kind of did in some circles. And I got to say, I don't think it's a shot against the Rays. I think it's just two dudes celebrating a World Series victory that they actually got to participate in. Because Tyler, he won last year, but he didn't get to pitch. But now this time they actually helped the team, and they're having fun. They've known each other for a long, long time, pitched on the same team for a long, long time. Now they get to have that fun. I don't think it was a shot against the Rays.
I don't either. I think they were just enjoying themselves post-celebration, post-World Series, or celebration post-World Series. And, I mean, it's not a situation like they snubbed the Rays. It's something that was out of their control. They didn't willingly necessarily sign with the Dodgers. I mean, they were traded by the Rays. What else can you can't really do anything at that point. So to me, it's just two ball players enjoying themselves. And, they didn't say anything derogatory about the Rays. And if somebody construed that way, I mean, I kind of feel sorry for you if that's what you're, bickering about on a evening or whatnot. I mean, I really don't see a big deal with it whatsoever.
I don't either. And I do think that, it's not like you're saying they were traded, but not only that, both of these guys signed extensions with the Rays. Both of them. Blake's now signed it for $15 million. And Tyler Glasnow, in fact, that made him a little bit more of an attraction to other people, knowing that he's got a fixed cost. So that's why Tyler Glasnow had been already up for sale in trade deadlines of the past. Hadn't happened, but having that extension does obviously help out the fact that, teams know already what they're going to have to pay for your talent. So both of them had contract extensions. You traded both of them. I don't see how this is a big controversy that social media is trying to make out.
Right. And it's one of those things where to me, it's kind of cool that these guys 5 years later are able to connect and enjoy each other and be on the same team and celebrate together. I really don't see the big issue with that. And I mean, it's kind of cool to see him go from 2020 to 2025. Really, can you blame anybody for not wanting to be on the Dodgers at this point? I mean, they're so dominant. They're such a powerhouse now. I really don't see how people are, just bashing the comments that these two made. To me, it's
Well,
two guys having fun and enjoying themselves and celebrating in the moment. I mean, I guess maybe we're back to normalcy if this is what people are complaining about. I don't know.
I do have to say, I think there is, and I think I've said this before. I think there is this like growing, or no, I'm not going to say growing movement that's giving them too much validity. I'll say there is a very loud minority of race nation using X that has lately this fascination with trashing X-rays, like Randy Arozarena and Tyler Glasnow and
Yeah.
Blake Snell, like just like giving like little like throwing strays at them, and I'm just like, these guys did nothing but represent us in the best way possible. At least these three guys. You want to give strays to Mr. Number 5? Go right ahead. I'll be
Right.
right there with you. But these guys, they did nothing but represent the franchise in the most spectacular way possible.
Yeah, and all those guys were traded. It's not like, they rebuffed the Rays and went and signed with the Red Sox or the Dodgers or the Yankees. It was something out of their control at the end of the day. If anything, it's an indictment on the Rays for not keeping these two guys, not keeping Snell and Glasnow and Randy, and go on down the list. I mean, if you want to be in the Fall Classic one day, yeah, it's probably a good idea to keep Tyler Glasnow around. It's probably a good idea to keep Blake Snell around. And maybe with this new ownership, we'll get an opportunity to see players like this stick around for a little bit longer. But really, I mean, it's just kind of, I guess, sucky, not necessarily what they said and them having fun and enjoying themselves. It's the fact that the Rays really, I mean, if they had the payroll and were willing to spend and willing to spend at or maybe slightly beyond their means, they could have these two players in a Rays uniform still. And you would wonder where this team would be with those two guys.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives you a lot of bad thoughts, but hopefully positive thoughts,
Yes.
because it's the off season, people. But no rest. Well, that's no problem for Yoshinobu Yamamoto and perhaps only one Tampa Bay Rays starter. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. And you know what? You can always use them as green Skittles on FanDuel. That's always a lot of fun. And right now, FanDuel is giving you customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. You heard that right. $300 in bonus bets to new customers when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com right now to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you so much for listening to Locked On Rays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Ryan Pepiot is the only pitcher you could trust going back-to-back in the World Series. And for those of you Rays fans who shut off baseball altogether after the Rays played in Toronto almost a month and plus,
I think they shut it off after early September.
That is also fair. If you were any of those people that fit in those two buckets, well, guess what? I will tell you really quickly that Yoshinobu Yamamoto was incredible during the playoffs. Not only did he do a complete game in the NLCS, then he backed it up with a complete game back-to-back in the World Series, and then offered to pitch in the 18th inning affair and was warming up in the bullpen. And then he does a 6-inning, 96-pitch outing, winning Game 6 with their backs against the wall. And wouldn't you know it, the man also pitched with no day's rest in Game 7 2 2/3, just a dog, stud, whatever adjectives you want to say. So that's what Yoshinobu Yamamoto did, right? Going back to back, which is something you never really see.
Yeah.
I
Maybe 20, 30 years ago, but not nowadays.
Exactly. Something you don't see nowadays. But I was looking at the Rays rotation, and really there's only one guy that could possibly, in the unlikeliest of scenarios, in the 1/1,000,000th scenario where this could actually happen, it's only one guy. It's the Doctor Strange #1 in the Avengers, Infinity War. That's a callback, people. It's Ryan Pepiot. And it's a very easy decision to make because you look at who's around him. Drew Rasmussen, multiple TJs, no thank you. Shane Boss, Tommy John, no thank you. Shane McClanahan, are you kidding me? And then the guys next to him, Ian Seymour, Joe Boyle, no way, dude, just because of trust. Ryan Pepiot is literally the only guy who you could possibly give the ball in back-to-back affairs, and it's a very, very easy choice here from the race rotation options.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of having a Yamamoto and the other cast of characters that the Dodgers are equipped with. I think that just underscores the gulf in the difference between what the Dodgers are at and what the Rays are at. We got some work to do for sure. And frankly, it starts with getting Shane McClanahan fully healthy, which that's even a big question mark there. But out of all the names you referenced, I mean, you're right. Ryan Pepiot is the guy. He may not do it with as much flash or flair, but he is the one guy who this past season, we saw him go 8 innings deep. We saw him go 7 innings deep. There was a string, while, might not be as impressive as Yamamoto, but by Rays standards, I mean, there was a stretch where I think maybe 5 or 6 outings, he went at least 6 innings, which is, you just wouldn't think that in 2020 to 2025 Rays baseball. So I think you're right. Ryan Pepiot is the guy. And I don't know what to make of that because he's not necessarily our most talented or impressive pitcher, but he's the guy who seems to be the healthiest and seems to be the most workhorse like of the current bunch. Heck, if Zach Littell was still part of the organization, you could probably even make an argument for Zach Littell. But yeah, Pepiot is really the only option for accomplishing something like that at this juncture. But as we know, the Rays have a lot of work to do before making it deep into October. But it is a fun exercise to talk about of who is the guy who you could just throw out there left and right, and he would have the durability to weather the storm. And he seems like a guy that would have that potential and that ability. He's well built enough, and I think over time, as he's gotten more reps, I mean, he went from 130 innings in 2024 to 167 innings in 2025. I mean, I wouldn't put it that out of the question to see him get to 180, 185 this year if all else goes well. I mean, he was one of the guys that had, 31 plus starts or 30 plus starts this past season.
He remained healthy, man. And so like you definitely see the competition around him in the Rays rotation, and you got to just point at him as the guy who could possibly do this. Now, Jason Stark from The Athletic said today, pitchers have never pitched less and never been less healthy. And it's true. And so when you look at a guy like Yoshinobu Yamamoto doing what he did in this playoffs, and look, has never been as global as it is right now.
Yeah.
There's still ways to go. I need to know if that's just Yamamoto being a dog, because apparently he's done that in Japan in the World Series over there. Okay, so he's done that before. So I don't know if this is like a Yamamoto DNA thing, that this guy is just that guy, or there's something in his regimen. There's something in his throwing program. There's something about the way that he maybe doesn't do a lot of strength based workouts instead of focuses more on stretching and flexibility. I need to know that, and by I would say MLB, I would say teams, I would say the physical therapist, I would say the conditioning team. Like, what is he doing? What is making him being able to do that? Is it just him? The guts, the las bolas?
Yeah.
Or is it something else? Because if it's something else, it is our intent to see what they're doing. So when I mean globalized, it can be even more global. What are they doing over there? What are they doing?
Yeah, I don't know what the major difference is. I'm sure, I mean, clearly Japan seems to be doing something right between Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani and some of the other players as well. Unfortunately, the Rays weren't able to cash in on the Yoshi Tsutsugo experiment. I think if I was just to throw this out into the ether, it is interesting because while you were talking, I was Googling it, and it looks like in general in the Japanese Pro League, pitchers have one more day of rest than in the major leagues. But I really think it goes back to the amateur and youth game where all these guys are playing travel baseball and they're throwing curveballs and breaking balls. And if they play in college, the coaches just want to win games. They're not necessarily concerned about their health. So by the time they get to the pros, then you start to see that elbow, shoulder, wrist, arm, whatever it may be, wear down to the point of Tommy John surgery or some other procedure is necessary. So I think it would probably be kind of an American problem of how we're maybe not taking care of these pitchers in their youth and adolescent ages. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Fair enough.
Yes. World Series 2026, we may be seeing lots of Ryan Pepiot. So, hey, if Ryan Pepiot is able to keep the ball in the ballpark and limit the hits and walks, he can give you 7-8. No doubt about it. He's definitely the guy to do that. And to the point you made about Jason Stark and his quote of pitchers have never pitched less and never been less healthy, I think we're going to see guys that if they have some semblance of durability, it doesn't matter if their ERA was 4.7 or 4.8. They're going to get, crazy amounts of money, which, makes it more difficult for the Rays if they're, out in free agency looking for a valuable veteran. It's just going to make the competition that much more difficult for a player like that or a player slightly above that, if you will. All right, moving on. Unlikely heroes come and go. And in 2026, Taylor Walls could be that guy.
NFL season is back. And honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can always be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, it's always a mess. And that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. In fact, I was in Fort Lauderdale a couple of weeks back. I wanted to see a soccer game. Guess what I did? I used Game Time because you'll always get 100% authentic tickets. So today, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
Thank you for listening to the Locked On Rays podcast and making us your very first listen every day. We appreciate it. We are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Taylor Walls is the unlikeliest hero for the Rays to hit a home run in the 9th inning of a World Series Game 7. Boy, is that the truth. And the reason we're bringing this up is Miguel Rojas, because he was probably not somebody that you had on your bingo card of coming up huge and delivering the clutchest of moments for a player. You might say Ohtani or Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts or name one of the 8 Hall of Famers that the Dodgers have, and you might pick one of those guys before Miguel Rojas the shortstop. So while it is unfortunate that Taylor Walls did not win the Gold Glove, we are putting another award on him, so to speak, of, hey, he could be an unlikely hero in a key playoff moment. And I think of what Miguel Rojas did in this past World Series, and it also gets me to think about what Dane Johnson did, what Brett Phillips did, what Mike Brasso did in the playoffs. Sometimes it's the guys that you least expect that come through with a big moment. And part of it is, yeah, these guys get paid too. They're professionals too. They
Right.
certainly had moments in high school, college, and all their way up through the professional leagues. But also sometimes maybe they get a little underestimated and they have a chip on their shoulder and they want to prove people wrong. And they want to say that, hey, it doesn't just have to be the all-star or the future Hall of Famer that can come up big when the lights are brightest. And maybe one day, someday, Taylor Walls could have that moment, perhaps in 2026 or 2027 or sometime in the future.
100%, because sometimes, we've talked to ball players before and they've said that in those moments when it gets to be maybe a little bit too much, if there are guys that are able to slow it down just by breathing, just by trying to get out of their head and have their own mental gymnastics on how to get away from that, they're able to do that. And it doesn't have to be the Hall of Famer. Sometimes we know really good baseball players that just don't usually cut it in the playoffs. And you do have the Brett Phillips and the Mike Brasso moments and the Dan Johnson moments. And I wouldn't put it past Taylor Walls to be that Miguel Rojas type, because let's just do a very easy comparison. Miguel Rojas is not known for his power or his bat. Neither is Taylor Walls, but they're known for their glove. So that already makes them kind of an unlikely hero to come up big in a serious moment when you need a hit, when you need a run. And usually in those moments, everybody's just grasping at whatever they can. And then when the joyous moment happens, everybody loses it. I mean, Joe Davis lost it in that call with Miguel Rojas. He said, no way, Miguel Rojas. So, that's kind of what would happen.
He did check to see if he was on the 26-man roster before calling that shot.
There you go. I mean, the same call would be done with Taylor Walls. No way Taylor Walls has tied it in the bottom of the ninth with a home run. And you look at the contributions that Miguel Rojas did in this Game 6 and Game 7. That's exactly the contributions that I would expect from Taylor Walls. Just solid defense, being able to do plays that nobody else could, and come up clutch with throws with the glove. I mean, I can definitely see a World Series where Taylor Walls does exactly that.
Yeah, and similar to Miguel Rojas, I certainly could see Taylor Walls having a career that is, 12, 13 years like Rojas, which if there's another similarity between these players, it's they have a grinder mentality, because you have to, if you're players like this, which again, they're talented. Every major leaguer is talented, but they're not Junior Caminero talented or Yandy Diaz talented, or pick an all-star talented. They have to earn their spot. And Miguel Rojas, year in and year out, has earned a spot on a major league roster. And give him credit, because he had to play many crappy years with the Marlins to make it to Los Angeles.
Before that.
Yeah.
Even before that in the minors, the guy wasn't just like, a sign and then gets up to the major. He grinded in the minors. So I can definitely see that grinder mentality also with Taylor Walls and being a guy that, has earned playing time and because of how he is on the field. And, something that gets talked about very much with Miguel Rojas is the leadership in the clubhouse. I don't think we've heard that from the Rays clubhouse, but I wouldn't be surprised if the guy that is out there early every day to take ground balls, to do defensive work, is maybe leading by example rather than with words.
I think he's a leader by example, not necessarily vocally. He's certainly, I don't believe, a Kevin Kiermaier type or one of those figures, but I think just he is getting there early and staying light, and that probably wears off in a good way to the younger players like Junior Caminero. I'm sure he sees that.
Exactly.
I'm sure Jonathan Aranda sees that. I'm sure the outfielders see that. Everybody sees the work that he's putting in, and it pays off certainly with the glove at least.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Miguel Rojas, you've had your moments. Taylor Walls, you're up next. Let's have your moment. Let's try to get you a Gold Glove.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another thing. So maybe that's his.
We called it. We said it would
Yeah,
would be very difficult, but this was a shot. But maybe next time, Taylor.
Yeah, he can make up for it in Game 7 of the 2026 World Series for the Tampa Bay Rays. On that note, we hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe. I will say there is, we're getting to the point, November, a lot of roster moves, a lot of baseball news in general. We will be getting to a lot of that stuff as we've moved on past the World Series, but we wanted to do a Rays / World Series episode on today's show, but coming up later in the week, we will have some newsworthy items that hopefully you will enjoy. So with that, we will talk to you later.